Very excited to be back.
Hello,
with Mike
everybody.
And Mr. Mike Callan.
I'm excited too.
It just may be, folks, that the purpose of your life is to serve as a warning for others, and this is where we dive into those who have walked that path.
Wow.
Well, I get happier because there's two of you. You only got me. I got both of you.
We've been busy.
Thank you.
We've been so busy. Honestly, it was hard to schedule this. Mike's on conferences, Mike's teaching, Bob's teaching, Monaco's teaching. We got together tonight, and I couldn't ask for more. Thank you, Mike, for coming on.
Oh, no, I've heard several people saying you can almost feel, and you almost beginning to see COVID in your rearview mirror. But the real key, and this is one of the things that my son says, who's a teacher himself, he said that COVID dragged everybody into the 21st century, and it's not going to let you go back.
Yeah.
And I think that's why one of the things I like about you guys is that you're helping me learn new ways. This is not you can't thread a 16 millimeter camera, but I can. Okay, but you don't need to anymore. So
I love it. Well, there was a lot of feedback on the last one. Very positive reviews and everything. So I'm kind of excited for this one. This is the title itself. Intrigued me. Yes. Utilities are an I.D.L.H.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, all days, it was all right, we go 20th century, all lines are hot. Okay. And I would be yelling at people constantly, why are you rolling up the telephone wire? Well, there's no
Let me tell you,
it.
we did that. I got to say, for my entire, when I was on the fireside career, we just, somebody would go over and touch it with the back of the hand. Yep, it's cold. And they would pull it down as hard as they could, snip it up high, and then they would coil it. And that was it. And then we just walked away.
Well, and I told you, utilities are I.D.L.H. I.D.L.H. by definition, just for the group that doesn't, we have people maybe listening who don't even know what I.D.L.H. is. I've had one person come up to me and say, I don't know what the I.D.L.H. is. Is it hydrogen? Is it helium? And I go, okay.
You have a phone. You should have looked it up before you asked me.
The I.D.L.H. I like that.
It's immediately dangerous to life and health. And it's in OSHA 1910-120 under hazardous materials. But it is the best definition of what gets us into trouble in anything. If you jump on a spongy roof, you're in an I.D.L.H.
environment, right?
Right. If you're standing in front of a building that's got stars on it and bricks cracked and smoke coming through, and you're with your buddy going, that means something, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, you know what? It's funny you should say it because, when you talk to a Haz Mat guy, I.D.L.H. is an actual number. It's a line. It has a unit of measurement. But when you say it to a fireman and you say, well, where are you going to put on your SCBA? And they go, well,
when you enter the I.D.L.H. environment, right?
Yeah, when I'm at the fire department, it's like, okay, when you're at the fire department, that might not be the I.D.L.H. And then you say, okay, you know what, I'll put it at the beginning, like the outside of the building. Well, what if it's on the 70th floor? It's like there's such an ambiguity to that.
Well, and the thing is, and that's the whole idea of I.D.L.H. by definition in OSHA is that it's any condition or atmosphere. So it says it's any atmosphere or condition situation that will lead to three things: death, permanent injury, or interferes with your ability to escape. So when I teach safe, unsafe, and dangerous, and this is where I drive it home, is that we say safe is below the threshold limit value. Okay, well, what's safe with wires? I can tell you right now, you don't touch a wire. And what's the safe distance? Well, the safe distance and recommendation in some of the FACE reports say a minimum of 10 feet and a minimum of 10 feet, but that's only the minimum distance for 50,000 volts or less. So you start getting up to big voltage, you've got to back up even more. But one of the things that bothers me, because I'm always worried about contact. That's what you call potential, touch potential. That's how guys get injured, killed, or burned, whatever.
See, all guys think when it has that coating on, you're good, and it's not true.
Oh no, because
it goes right through the coating, right?
Okay, well, the coating you're looking at is weather coating on some wires.
Right.
It's not insulation. Okay. It's only to keep the wire because you guys don't. Have you ever heard the term swinging short?
Only
Only
on dates. Where is this going?
In the old days, your game well was run by magnetic wires, okay? And as they would rub against the tree, it would wear off the wire insulation, and in a storm, it would get wet. It would make contact with the tree and go to ground. That would ring the bell in the station. That's what we call a short, a swinging short. The wire would swing into it. So, I mean, now half the group don't even know what we're talking about.
No. I thought for sure. I was like, he saw me sit down with no pants on.
I'm not that kind of guy. I'm not going to go anywhere. I'm carrying the burden of when I talk about. I have 5 moments with electricity in my life, and I call them the HS moments because I was writing the book, and I would go HS, and my wife would hear it and know what I was talking about, and she says, "You almost killed yourself again, didn't you?" I said, "Yeah, 5 times on the job. I almost." I don't know if I shared it the last time. Did we talk about this? Natural gas. My salute now is that you guys out there in the audience. I want you all to do this right now. Okay, get your fingers like that because if you haven't seen it, you got to know what I'm talking about. Because I can show any firefighter that symbol and then say the following words. Last night I came this close to getting.
Yep.
Okay. Well, with electricity, that gap could still save you. But if it does this,
that's it.
Done.
You could be dead. And Mike got the answer with the last time we were talking. 1/10. All right. All of you people in the audience, you know how to talk the talk. It ain't the volts that kills you. It's the what?
Amps.
Yeah. But the problem is how many amps? 1/10 of an amp will put your heart in fibrillation. You're going to have to get somebody to shock you back to life. And you can't use the wire that got you there. Okay. Okay. The other one, it ain't the volts. No, let's see. All wires are what?
Live.
Live.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's why they used to say live, energized, hot. No, all wires are IDLH. Because a live wire can kill you. It can burn you. It can shock you. Okay. Or electricity travels faster than you can run. It travels at the speed of light. Even Superman didn't get the speed of light. Okay. Okay. So you can't, and it's funny because, and I'll get into the definitions in a minute, is that's one of the things that they don't get is that they think they can touch it. They think they can do something. They can get a rope. They can get a ladder. I'm going to talk about case histories for probably the rest because there's 3 case histories with electricity that explains how I am so emphatic about one issue.
Tell me when you want me to switch over to it on the screen.
Which one?
The case studies. Tell me when you want to switch.
Oh no, you're going to put my notes and things up there?
No, we don't have
those guys to you.
Oh, okay.
No, we can. We'll, you know what we'll do is in post production. Just we'll talk about the face reports, and I'll give you the numbers.
Perfect. Okay, sounds good.
And they can look them up that way.
Perfect.
But I'll say I've got case histories, but I think I can throw them up a bit easier and just say, look at the first one was why I did this, and this is the guy I think I told you about. He was electrocuted in northern Connecticut because all wires are hot. And it's the one thing I learned from this event right away as an officer, because I had seen him. It was a 23,000 volt wire in a snowstorm. They went to a house for reports of problems, but the wire had come down in the backyard, laid on the telephone wire that sagged because of the ice and storm. Mm-hmm. And this firefighter, Craig Arnone, backed into it and hit it with his tank. And
so he hit the phone wire that was being charged by another wire.
He took the 23,000 volts and went to ground and killed him.
Wow!
And I saw his father at one meeting, or I know what it was. It was the electric guys that told me about this. Is that they always felt bad because his father always felt it was the electric company that had killed his son. And I understood it was not their fault. It was the electricity. We didn't know better. And I live a motto now that it isn't the electricity, it's us, because even we don't understand electricity like we think we do. So that was the first one. And I was doing work for Pacific Gas and Electric on safety. I do a speech on safety. Safety begins with number one. Okay. Mm-hmm. And it works with industry because I show them firefighters and what we'll do sometimes and get ourselves in trouble because we don't think of number one. Okay. But the bottom line was, they said, could you do this for firefighters? And I said, I don't know anything about electricity. He says, we'll teach you. And he says, I'll give you your first lesson. And I go, yeah, what is it? It's to the last phrase. Electricity follows the, and everybody says the path of least resistance. And he yelled at me. He yelled, that's what gets you guys killed. You don't get it. It doesn't follow the path of least resistance. It follows all paths. As long as there's electricity flowing, there is current. And current is what gets you. And 1/10 of an amp ain't a lot. So no, even you get hit by 30,000 volts, there's no coming back. But those kinds of a problem. So the first guy, this case history got me started because I didn't know that much about electricity, and Pacific Gas and Electric, ComEd, Puget Sound Energy, Wisconsin Electrical, those four people said, we're going to give you whatever you need to get this into a textbook. We'll buy the first round so that we can give these to firefighters. And I call them founding fathers. I had 4 for gas. And that was enough to get me to write. I needed a light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
I'm into home. I just wanted to make sure my wife wasn't here because Mrs. Callan always.
I'll see a big spoon come over the camera.
Yeah, that's right. That's a whole joke. Don't eat the cookies. That's for your funeral. Okay. So with that said, I started writing the book. Well, I've discovered the FACE reports, fatality assessments. And this is what we talked about with the explosion last time. Well, there's a lot more electrical issues out there than I realized. Between the time I started writing the book and the time they were doing FACE reports, there's like 12 or 13 electrocutions of emergency services, police, fire, ambulance, because they didn't know what we're up against. So the second one, the FACE report, and I said I'll give you the numbers. The FACE report is 99-46, and this was a volunteer firefighter, and they went to a wire down in an easement. A lot of cities where they'll have we call them alleys here. They call them easements across the country. Okay. And this was in the Midwest because you had the houses and they run all the utilities between the houses. So the wires are not coming in off the street. The wires are coming down or in off the alley, maybe a 4-foot wide area between.
The sides of the building, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but they came down to a fire in the easement. And it was a bunch of grass and stuff, and it was. I'm not sure if it was night, but it was dusk to a point where they couldn't really see what was going on. And they looked up and they saw the tree against the wires, but the problem was they didn't assess it wasn't easily seen that there was a wire down. There were 2 wires up though, out of a 3-phase. So there was 1 wire someplace, and they said, go put that fire out. And so they walked over, and the kid, 18 years old, stomped on it to try and put the grass fire out, and the wire was in the pile. Okay. I screamed, dropped. They were doing CPR, and we lost them. And so what they do is they come out with the bullets that I talk about all the time, and what we should be doing differently. And what it came out to, by the time I was done with about 5 of these, it's within like 2 pages at the beginning of the book, is that I write, and I still say it, which is what bothers me and still drives me, is that all these reports that I read Okay. In fact, I was mentioning to you, the third report is a fire captain that was killed in a Northeast city because they're trying to ventilate, and there's victims in the building. So they're caught up in that kind of, you know what I'm saying? I don't even have to say
Right. You do this.
There's no
and then
name to it, but it changes the way you look at things. Okay. And what happened was they're raising it up, and he gets a message that the utility company has killed the power to the house. Okay. And the utility company had, but in that message, they hadn't segregated the block. They killed the power to the house. And as the LTI went up, it's not LTI, the bucket went up. Okay.
Oh.
One guy saw and crouched, the other guy didn't see it and got hit. Okay, they bring it down. They both go to the hospital. He passes. We lost him. The problem is that the bullets in this one in 2008 are the same bullets, in almost exactly the same as they are in 99. Okay, that they say we need. As I was going to read you, we need there's lack of training. And that was why I was doing this. Okay. I've been spending all that time on hazmat, propane, utility. Every one of these things are I.D.L.H. They can kill you. But the thing that I take back all the time, and I say it all the time in these classes, I put those two bullets up in my programs. Not only is there severe lack of training, but two, there's often an inadequate or non-existent operating procedure for responding to operating during electrical emergencies. We have SOPs on envelopes, but we don't have SOPs on wires down. And the two things we're going to run into all the time at every house that we go to is the fuel that heats it and the electricity that lights it.
So what are the things that should be an SOP for wires down? Like, well, okay, so we recognize that we don't recognize wires, but if we did recognize them,
well, all right. Why? Maybe this is. I've always wondered this. Why don't they paint the wires like fluorescent orange or yellow? Or when you're looking up and it's a black sky and it's a black wire,
you can't see
nobody sees it.
I don't argue that fact.
Like, make it white.
Well, here's the thing.
Glow in the dark.
You make a good point. When they bury them, they usually mark them, and they usually have pipe. Now, but the problem is we usually use yellow pipe, and they have another pipe. I've got pictures of two yellow pipes standing side by side in the hole. One is carrying gas, and the other one is carrying electricity.
Okay, but I'm not going through the ground to get to the basement to grab a kid.
I don't disagree with you. But here's the thing. All right, you do. Here's what you know. You know the hierarchy of a telephone pole. If you look at that telephone pole, what's on the bottom? What wires are on the bottom?
Cable, phone.
Yeah, your phone.
Well, what do you think is on the top one?
The bad
That's
stuff.
the hotline stuff.
Well,
Phase
and the
1, 2,
reason
3.
they put it that high up, and if you look at a regular telephone pole with 3-phase on top of it, you then go look at a high energy transmission line, and they move it what? Up, even higher. And those things that you see on the top, you know, as insulators.
Right.
Okay. Those are go on one at a time, and each one is rated for an amount of amperage and ohms, so that when you look at the power lines, there's like a string of 20 of them. When you look at the one that's coming into the house off the secondaries, you're going to see one or two, but that secondary is still carrying good power.
Oh, it still kill you. Like
I was
many
always
times
taught
over.
by like a linesman. He told me for every one of those glass cups, those little insulator cups, he goes, that's 1 foot away from that wire. He goes, you see 30? You should be 30 feet. He goes, you're within 30 feet. It will come out and get you.
It does, because that was, remember I was talking about the 50,000. Hey, I've got, when I do the program, make a note to I can give you a video of an arc. And when you see that thing arc, you're always interesting. In fact, it would be good for me because I always narrate it. At the end of this arc, there's a little guy. He's a gas guy, and the last thing he does is, "Whoa!" when the gas guys are going, the electric guys are going, "Whoa!" That's a sign. That should be a quick sign. I'll send you that one to you. It's a big arc
put it in a report,
inside a substation. Okay. I don't know. I shouldn't be talking like this because I don't know if you can get me out of them. But those are things that I do. And it's hard to do the same things that I can do in training. But that's one of the things that's out there. And so answering yours, Mike, every one of them says, one, they don't, for example, you say one span. I don't know what the city says. If there's a pull up and there's a wire down, do you just go back one or do you go back two?
Oh, man, I think it's 1.5 if memory serves.
Well, you're on good because wire has a memory and it will roll back. And so I always hear people say, well, stay back one. But the problem is if you're one and there's a wire on that end and it breaks, it can come back past this pole. So I have utilities that tell me it's two. And here's an interesting concept. It's two and put the truck on the other side of the street. Don't put the truck on the same side of the street as wires, because in a storm or a car hits, it can come down.
Does wire ever have the potential of if it's whipping back enough energy to dislodge off that its pivot point?
You could predict it. I remember when.
Let's put it this way: if I put two up and it breaks, one will come back. It always kind of whips back, but I can't tell you how far it whips back because if they call it wire memory, and eventually it'll lose its elasticity.
Okay.
Well, I went to rigging school when I was in special operations, and depending on which way the wire is wound tells you if it's going to go left or right when it breaks.
Who's there to tell you how they wound it off?
I don't. That's my thing. I don't know. I'm not that guy.
What if it breaks up?
Here's the thing. There's a wire, okay? And I didn't mention it at the beginning, but because that touching of the wire, that's what I say is electricity is one of the most preventable deaths in the fire service, okay? Right. Because if I could, my wife has said, I've said it. I don't know. I think it might have been down around your neck of the woods, whether in Nassau or Suffolk. There was a guy on the roof. I don't know how long back, and he backed into the drip loop. Ooh. They were putting a tarp on top because of the work that they had done, and he backed into it, got hit, and got killed. I know it was on the island. I can't really tell you where, but my wife said, I said, man, if I'd had him in class, because you've got to, here's a good thing. What's the first level of training in hazardous materials?
Awareness.
What's the first level? Awareness. So what does awareness see? You see a placard. I don't care what the placard is. You say danger because it's hazardous materials. Okay. What should we be doing in training firefighters? Is to train them in awareness. Those words that I played with at the beginning, I did at Hunt Valley. While I was writing the book in probably around 2002, I interviewed all those guys. I maybe had 20 guys at Hunt Valley at the Haz Mat conference, and I asked them those questions. And at the beginning of chapter 2 on the online program, I got Bill Hand and I got a whole bunch of guys, and all of them have trouble answering those questions because no one has ever given us the answers.
Right.
Of all the classes, I say, okay, I say it all the time, why am I here? Okay, what is my relevance? And learning that safe, unsafe, and dangerous is all about wires. Because safe, unsafe, and dangerous is about 10% of the LEL.
Okay, so all right. So how do we then? So let's say I'm listening to something like you're right. Like we need to employ this in our safety. Clearly, it's not enough just to tell people, "Hey guys, make sure you watch out for wires." So how would somebody institute this into a training program where it sticks? And should it be something that is a regularly hit subject? Okay,
I'll give you two answers to that one because I worked on those. One, it should be in the standard. The problem with the standard, it should be in your training for firefighter 1, and it is. Okay, there's and I won't mention the books, but we have 2 sets of books out there that train firefighter 1s. I want you to compare how many pages on electricity and natural gas are in the recruit manual, and how many pages there are for salvage covers.
I know.
Listen,
I know
you get wrapped up in that plastic, and it's
I know it can kill you.
The plastic is an I.D.L.H.
That's right.
Wow.
Oxygen deficient. So your meter will be going off when you can't escape.
That's true.
But now, why I say that is, up until recently, NFPA standard 1001 only had one standard for natural gas and electricity. And I'll read it. The firefighter shall turn off the building utilities given tools and assignments to complete the assignment. Prerequisite, properties, principles, concerns for electricity, gas. I mean, we only had one. We still only have one or a few standards.
So there's no standard for like throwing up a ladder or putting up a tower to a roof. Like there's no actual like standards that then touch on, hey, don't lean against the wire. Like there's, and I'm asking a legit, I legitimately don't know.
And my answer is, I'll give you 3 firefighter deaths around the country because they didn't look for the wires where they were raising a ladder. One was just across the river in Jersey City. And that was interesting because back then they could put a guy on duty by the chief officer ordering him to work. And so one guy was helping the guy raise the ladder. One guy was in full protective clothing. The off-duty guy was just helping him. The off-duty guy got killed. The on-duty guy got his hands burned because he had his protective clothing on. I always say protective clothing isn't electrical protection, but it is certainly
But it's a barrier,
something.
Right.
It's got some resistance. It's not going to kill you. I mean, it's not going to save your life if you decide to pick up the wire. There's a police officer in one case history that he picked up the wire because it was laying across the street and nothing happened. But when he walked across to pull it to the side of the road, he stepped off the blacktop. So, and there's 2 theories in that case history. He either was trying to tie it onto a guardrail, or the resistance on the wet ground was worse than the resistance on the blacktop and his shoes. But the first way you talk about it, Mike, he shouldn't touch the wire.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
But you're right. What it's going to be, you know why? Because with natural gas, I can blow up a building and kill multiple people. That's going to get everybody working. Usually electricity is one at a time.
Well, I think we have this image in our head. Like, we've been to many wires down, and the wire is just flopping all over the place. It's arcing, it's jumping, it's doing this. And if it's just laying there and chilling, well, clearly, I've been to wires down. If it's alive, they're arcing all over the place. This one is it's sitting there behaving, and it looks just like my black extension cord at home, and I can touch that when it's plugged in. So what the hell's the difference?
I can tell you, because live wires don't always make a noise. That's the first thing linemen learn. It's just because it's there and it's energized. And if it's from the bottom lines, it's 50,000 volts or less. If it's from the top poles, you're going to have to back up even more based on the stuff. So that's why they're always saying stay at least 10 feet away at start. And if you're even thinking about using a nozzle anywhere in the area, you're going back 30, 40, 50 feet because water is going to change the resistance. It's frustrating for me because it's the one program that I love to do because I know I'm making a difference. I make a difference. I say, oh God, that sounds conceited. That's not the point. I myself enjoy teaching it because I can see in their eyes that they never thought about this stuff.
You're making an impact.
Well,
plus the videos
when
have
I
to
was
be.
a lieutenant, I was making an impact against the wall with my head. That's why all captains have no hair, because they keep walking around going, I can't believe they're doing this shit. Ooh, excuse me.
That's okay.
I'm okay saying I'm responsible for many a knots on my officer's head.
I do have a question before we wrap up. You said the book you were writing. Where is that book available?
Actually, yeah. In fact, one of the things I was going to send you is I told the publisher, give me your publishing stuff so I could post it at the end and do it. So
Absolutely.
I'll get that to you. But
It'll be in.
It'll be backwards, won't it, if I do it?
No, you can hold it up.
No. You're flipped right.
Why am I stopped?
I don't know.
It's all right. I see you moving.
Oh, I am moving? Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
you're fine.
I'm stopped on my own.
Hold it up.
It's responded. There's two. There's natural gas and electricity. I'll send that to you immediately because he sent it to me. And the title of it is Utilities or I.D.L.H. I told him to give me 2 books and Utilities or I.D.L.H. in the middle. So
I'm going to put it into the show notes along with the 3 face report download links so they can download them and put them on the kitchen table and say, let's talk about this.
And Mike,
go ahead.
If anyone wanted to get a hold of you to actually have you come in and train, how could they do that?
Yeah, that's a big one.
Well, I think fair is fair. It would be good if they let you know and you guys can put them to me because that's probably easier. But they can also go to MikeCallan.com. Or you want you want that kind of information?
Yeah, sure.
It's up to you. I mean,
no, I never thought about that, but it's MikeCallan.com is the name of the website, and we did that. The other one is the MCallan, MCALLAN at ATT.net, and the number is 860-2096.
Say that one more time.
Like saying Murray Hill 9/11. But that was it. I was ever watching that on TV. And call Murray Hill 775.
Say your phone number one more time.
860-874-2096.
Done. I love that. Wow.
Hey, I
and
appreciate it.
that is for the Chewbacca mimicking contest.
Yeah, give your best raw. Give your best raw to that number. It's a contest.
Well, I
Mike,
appreciate it, guys. It's just the tip of the iceberg, too. I mean, this could use a class, too, where I actually, not only talk about it, but try to get somebody to learn it. And I'll tell you, while the book isn't everything, I'll tell you it's a good read because it's only about 100 pages long with lots of pictures. So
I love it. I tell you, what, these types of things. I hope let's get something on the calendar ASAP because I want to keep this going. The feedback is excellent.
Well, the other thing is, if it'll help, I have the 2 online programs, but I just don't have any way to keep people from. I use the utilities. They pay the subscriptions, but I'm trying to find a way that I could use it as an individual. You come on, you register, you get a certificate at the end of the class. Because I've been talking to somebody about doing that from Rhode Island. The girl that looked at what you guys were doing and told me that I was good to be connected with you guys.
Yeah, we can absolutely talk about something offline.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I know that. I hope we've cut by now, right?
No, not yet.
Not yet.
All right. On that note, we will see you guys shortly. Thanks, everybody.
Hey.